This is The Flash from the New 52. Welcome to the Comicstorian Full Story channel, where you get old and new full stories from Comicstorian in one place to give you a better viewing experience. Today is an old one, but a great one. Flash from the New 52, from his origins to the Reverse Flash. The first couple videos are very old and were made at the start of the channel when we were dealing with some copyright issues with DC and hadn't yet found our editing style. So you'll see some interesting editing on those. But I hope you enjoy this great story.
Barry Allen was having just a lovely night at the museum with Patty on their first date ever, when a group calling themselves Mob Rule arrived in a spectacular manner by breaking through the ceiling. But, my dear listeners, they just broke into an event that the Flash was attending. And once they realize that, our little thieves make a break for it. But do they really think that they can run faster than the Flash? The Flash quickly jumps off at their little helicarrier and grabs whatever it is that they were trying to steal. But one downside to being the Flash: you can't fly. But you can vibrate at the frequency of the floor, allowing you to pass through it and hit the sewer below. Iris West sees him crash land through the ground, and she runs over to make sure that he's okay. And he tells her everything's gonna be hunky-dory. The Flash bolts back to the museum, and he chains back to Barry Allen just in time to work the crime scene. You see, Flash's day job is as a crime scene investigator. Patty, his date for the night, also works at the station, so she's at the crime scene. And Iris shows up because, well, she's a reporter. So all three of them are here because a body was left behind by Mob Rule. And this body turns out to be a man named Manuel. Somebody that Barry Allen once knew. The Flash is sad over the loss of his friend, and he tries to decide how it happened. How did Manuel's life go so wrong? He also wants to know, why was Manuel stealing a DNA recoder? What use did he have for this? And just when he's getting nowhere with his investigation, an intruder breaks into his house. And then Barry discovers that his intruder is actually Manuel, alive. Manuel tells him that they don't have much time and they have to get out of here right now, and he jumps out of the window, and Barry chases after him in his underwear. Someone is chasing them, and Barry doesn't know who or how or what's happening, so he conveniently falls into a nearby river so he can come out as the Flash. He quickly catches up to Manuel, who's being captured by his pursuers. But then the Flash is shocked to see that his pursuers are more Manuels. Flash gives the Manuel army 3 seconds to let go of his friend and explain, but the Manuel army tells him, you can't be everywhere at the same time. So that idiot that jumped into the river, well, we kidnapped his lady, Iris West. The Flash is stuck, and he has to let the Mob Rule Manuel army go free so he can get to Iris fast. After ensuring she's okay, he takes off to meet up with one of his scientist friends because he's already running late, and that's not really something that the Flash is known for. Well, he was supposed to meet up with his friend Dr. Elias after the whole Mob Rule situation arose, because while he's in control of his powers, he doesn't understand them. They're just too new to him. Dr. Elias has him run on a treadmill, and it blows up and goes into the ground, and they discover that the Flash's powers are stemming from a power source that isn't in this world. A speed force, if you will. And somehow Barry Allen is tapping into it, and when the Flash asks if he can go faster, Dr. Elias says that his body is already going as fast as it can go. But his mind, he's not thinking fast enough. So Barry Allen decides to take the day off. There's so much going on that he needs to figure out. Why are there 50 Manuels? How did the other one die? How can he think faster? And while he's thinking about all of this, Patty comes up to the roof to find him. Not only is he dating her, but she's also his partner, and wants to let him know that the dead Manuel's cells are regenerating themselves. He's literally healing his injuries post-mortem. This means that his cells are able to regenerate in a hurry, meaning that all of those other Manuels could very easily just be clones. Then he realizes he just put everything together in milliseconds. There's a bird over there, there's a woman putting out a pie, there's a construction site over there. He's thinking at light speed, but he's interrupted by a phone call from the reporter Iris West that he ran into at the start of this adventure and he saved a little bit later. She has information for him on this case, so he says his goodbyes to Patty to go see what's up. But once he meets up with her, he realizes that he can't turn this off. His brain is moving at light speed even when he's on the streets with Iris, and he sees a potential robbery. He then realizes the power of thinking this quickly. He realizes that he calculated every possibility of stopping the crook in milliseconds, and within seconds, he manages to set up an entire trap for this robber to stop him. Iris explains that she got Manuel's passport, so maybe this can help Barry track down where Manuel came from. And the Flash hits every location on this passport hoping to find a lead. Afghanistan, China, Serbia. And the only connection that he can seem to find is an old abandoned military training facility and some pigs. Returning back home, he starts trying to figure all of this out. Genetic recoding, clones, regeneration, unexplained death, and pigs? How is this all connected? There's so many unanswered questions right now. And just then, all of the power in the city and the surrounding areas goes out, causing a plane to plummet to the city. The first thing that the Flash does is jump into the air, passing through the plane by vibrating at its frequency. Then he makes the whole plane transparent so it passes through the bridge. He then quickly signs some autographs and he gets back on the road looking for more problems. He runs around the entire city saving the day. And while he's doing this, Dr. Elias is trying to get to the source of the Flash's power, and he conveniently ends up in front of the mob rule army of Manuels. Oh, this won't end well. The night is very long for the Flash and the police force, and the next day when Barry returns to work, he finds out that the night was also eventful for one of his friends. Patty tracks down a lead on the whole Manuel clone thing, and they decide to patrol that area during this power outage so that they can possibly find more information. But as luck would have it, this is the exact time that Mob Rule is actually there. Well, Patty and Barry sneak in around this operation and they find Barry's friend, Manuel, without his hands. Barry, Patty, and Manuel all make a break for the exit as Mob Rule chases them down, and Barry locks himself inside while Patty is yelling for Barry to get out. Well, it's a good thing that Barry Allen is actually the Flash. Seriously, I highly doubt that none of you knew that at this point. And Barry decides to use his newfound power, analyze everything, look at all possibilities, and see where he can go. And he gets shot in the head. He was just standing there, overanalyzing everything, and he didn't actually move. Manuel carries Patty away while she screams for Barry, and Mob Rule flees, since they just shot a cop. Manuel and Patty get back to the police force, and Manuel's hands regenerate. He then decides that this is all his fault. He dragged Barry back into this, so he's gonna go back in and save Barry. But once he gets back to Mob Rule, they tell him that they just killed that cop, infuriating Manuel, and he jumps right in to fight his clones. But they're all just him, and he can't take himself out. He hits the ground hard, realizing how futile this is, and he remembers. He remembers how he got to this point. He remembers why there are clones of him, regeneration. He remembers back on the whole situation. How did he let Barry die? They're old friends. He was always visiting him. Barry was always there for him. Barry always helped him out. And now, because of this mess he got himself into, he got Barry killed. How can they be capable of killing Barry? How can he be capable of killing Barry? They're all the same person. But Barry isn't dead. He couldn't be. While he was shot in the head, his natural reflexes saved him at the last second. Either way, he realizes that he needs to get a handle on his powers, because he was so lost in all of the possibilities that he froze in place and got himself shot. He then looks around and finds a tie that belongs to Dr. Elias, and he realizes they have Dr. Elias. Oh, and there's Dynamite over there. He gets out at top speed and he realizes he's gonna have to end this. This is getting out of control. We then cut to Dr. Elias leading the Manuel army around, and he's helping them. They have a flaw in their DNA causing them to die, and he's just trying to help them, even if they do have him captive. The clones are all flawed, and they need their genetic code to be rewritten with the real Manuel's DNA code to save them. Dr. Elias is going to try and do this right now. The Flash runs the entire length of the city looking for the Manuels. They took his real friend. They endangered his other friends. They have to be stopped. And when you can run the entire length of the city in milliseconds, it's kind of hard to hide a whole army of Manuels. So Flash tracks them down quickly. He's done playing around. He's gonna end this in a flash. And he takes out all of the Manuels and runs straight into the experiment, getting ready to get Manuel off the machine that Dr. Elias attached him to. But Dr. Elias stops him and says that Manuel wants this. It's working. It's going to save the entire Mob Rule. But Dr. Elias is wrong. Something is going wrong, and it's about to explode. But wait, it is working. If the Prime Manuel just sits there longer, it'll save all of Mob Rule. Dr. Elias tells Flash that he needs to contain the blast, and Flash, apologizing to his friend, starts to create a vortex around him to contain the blast. He uses everything to send the blast into the atmosphere and away from the city, and it goes up into space, and well, who knows where it goes next. Then, Manuel sees all of his clones dying. The Flash prevented them from getting the DNA recoding that they needed. But he saved his friend. And the Flash is exhausted and he falls to his knees. And Manuel walks over furious. The Flash killed them all! And he knocks out the Flash. And then he knocks out Dr. Elias and he walks away. Days later, he cuts off one of his own fingers. And they regrow into more Manuels. He'll figure this out on his own. The Flash meets up with Dr. Elias also days later to get some bad news. When he threw that EMP pulse into the atmosphere at top speeds, he sent it into time, and it's been ripping other things out of time, such as a World War II fighter plane, and throwing them all over the place. As it turns out, every time that Barry Allen runs at top speeds, he's tearing the very fabric of space and time. And the only answer that Dr. Elias has for how they can stop this is destroy the Speed Force. Captain Cold, an old cold-based villain that the Flash has dealt with numerous times before, but he's not normally a problem, because Captain Cold just uses a cold-based gun and he refuses to kill. Not this time. This time, Captain Cold is trying to mortally win the Flash, and this time, his powers are coming from his own hands, not a gun. He quickly and easily catches the Flash, and then he punches him clean in the face. But how could he possibly be doing this? You see, they're actually fighting on the bay that Captain Cold has frozen, and he launched a boat up into an ice pillar. And on that boat is Patty, Iris, and a few of Barry's other friends as they're currently trying to hold on for their very lives. You ever feel like you've jumped into the middle of something? Well, this is the Flash, so we had to bring it right to this point right now. But let's discuss how we got here. Why is Captain Cold so angry at the Flash that he's gonna break all of the rules that he's set for himself? Well, Captain Cold has just lost his sister. She was in the hospital on life support when a giant green energy bolt went into the sky and it shut down all of the power in the city. Captain Cold's sister seemingly died that day, and it appeared as if all of this was the Flash's fault. Though we, as the viewers, know it was Barry's friend Miguel that caused this. And if you don't know that, maybe you should check out the last Flash storyline. Captain Cold can't earn a living. He can't even keep his team, the Rogues, together. And now he can't even keep his sister safe. And it's all because of the Flash. So he froze the entire bay and the boat that Barry and his friends were on, not realizing that Barry was the Flash. And he did all of this in an attempt to draw out the Flash. All so Captain Cold can get his revenge. And while he's been fighting the Flash, he just dropped the boat off of the icy pillar. Well, the Flash can run faster than he's ever run before. But he really shouldn't, because every time he hits his top speeds, he's tearing the very reality that we all exist in. But he can't let everyone on that boat die. He has to catch them. But how fast is too fast? What will happen if he breaks his top speed, saving everybody? Well, we're about to find out as he manages to save Patty and get a few of the other survivors off of the boat. But at these speeds, he opened up a wormhole right above the boat, and he didn't get Iris off the boat yet. He runs as fast as he can so he can catch her before she gets sucked up into it, faster than he's ever run before. But folks, it's not fast enough. The Flash fails. So he continues at this speed and he grabs Captain Cold and he beats him senselessly, demanding to know why. Why did he do this? Was killing all of these people worth it just to get the Flash to come out and fight him? And Cold, through the beating, simply says, "You killed my sister." The Flash stops, shocked. Cold explains what happened. The Flash gets up, and he walks away for the police to handle Cold. But he does tell Cold as he walks away, "I can't fix the past, but I can fix the future, and I can fix all of this." His next stop is to go over to Dr. Elias, the scientist who's been helping him figure out all of this Speed Force stuff, and he asks if he can use the cosmic treadmill that he made. You see, Dr. Elias knew the Flash going at high speeds was going to end up sending off excess energy that would open up wormholes. So he built this cosmic treadmill that will power the city based off of the Flash's excess energy. The Flash steps on it, and he goes faster than he's ever gone before, trying to open up a wormhole. And he does it, allowing him to jump into the Speed Force so that he can save everybody. Meanwhile, Captain Cold's sister has pulled through. Dr. Elias's machine that is powered by the Flash has restored power to the hospital in time to save Captain Cold's sister. But his sister, she claims that Cold should have let her die for what he did to her. But we'll come back to that. The Flash ran into the Speed Force, and the first thing he saw was an amazing world full of floating chunks of land. But before he could finish taking it all in, he finds himself being jumped by a man he's never met before. And after a few punches are thrown, we discover that this man's name is Turbine, and that he's been trapped in the Speed Force ever since World War II. Sadly, Turbine hasn't seen Iris West or the others that were lost in the Speed Force. But he does know Barry Allen. That's right, he knows the real name of the Flash. That's because all around them is the Flash's life on a constant repeat, looking into his future and looking into his past. And all Turbine wants is to go home. Well, the Flash still wants answers as to what the Speed Force is and why he's destroying the time stream. but Turbine decides to explain to the Flash that he is actually the savior of time and space, not the villain. You see, the Speed Force builds up like a bottle about to explode, and when it explodes, it opens up wormholes. Without somebody to run off the excess energy from the Speed Force, it opens up these wormholes in random times and it traps things into the Speed Force dimension. So Turbine, he came from World War II when the Speed Force opened up and it sucked him in. The Mayans were also lost in time when the Speed Force wormhole swallowed their entire civilization. But the Flash doesn't understand. If he's running off the excess energy, how is he even opening up the wormholes into the Speed Force? But Turbine explains again. It's not the Flash doing it. It's him. When the Flash runs at his top speeds, Turbine can sense him. So he spins faster and faster, hoping that it'll get him out of this world, out of this Speed Force. But it doesn't. All it seems to do is suck things into the Speed Force. The Flash can't believe it. These vortexes, losing Iris and her friends. It's all Turbine's fault. Flash grabs him in a hurry and they take off in a direction going fast enough to get the heck out of here. And he doesn't know where he's going, but wherever he's going, he's gonna take himself and Turbine out of here. Well, if only he'd looked around a little bit more, because Iris and her friends were just around the corner. But wherever he's going, it can't be any worse than this, can it? Well, would you consider landing in a city full of talking gorillas worse? How about a city full of gorillas with one named Gorilla Grodd who just killed his father to become the king of Gorilla City? Oh, and in this travel back to the real world, he somehow lost track of Turbine. But he must pop out somewhere, right? Boy, this is one heck of a long day for the Flash, isn't it? Well, after Gorilla Grodd tries to eat him, he ends up with an Elder of Gorilla City. And the Elder explains that the Flash is the bearer of light, and it is his job to allow Gorilla City to remain in the shadows and not be eaten by a Speed Force vortex like the ancient civilization the Mayans were. The Flash is their prophet, and he's their savior, and he's arrived at Gorilla City just as they're about to enter a time of turmoil. But Gorilla Grodd shows up and he tries to attack the Flash. He was going to be the king. He was going to lead the city into light and step out of the shadows. And he can't do it if the prophets arrived. The Flash can't be the bringer of light. It's supposed to be Gorilla Grodd. The Flash is just food. But the Flash smirks. He isn't the bringer of light, nor is he food. He's the fastest man alive, and he quickly dispatches Gorilla Grodd without a problem. He then stands over Gorilla City and he tells them that he will keep running to keep them from being sucked up by the vortexes. But he can't stay here. They need to decide their own future. Iris is still missing. Turbine is still missing. And he needs to get back to Central City to figure out what he's gonna do since the entire city currently thinks he's dead since he was on that boat also. And obviously, no one knows that he's the Flash. Eventually, he ends up in Iron Heights Bar, the Rogues Bar, where all of the rogues hang out while he tries to decide what to do next. And conveniently, Captain Cold is down at the other end of the bar also trying to think about things. Because if you remember earlier in our story, Lisa Snart, his sister, told him that he should have just let her die for what he did. But what did he do? Well, things are about to get even more interesting for the Flash because Heatwave kicks in the door to the bar demanding his revenge against Captain Cold. He declares that Captain Cold gave him his newest burnt to a crisp appearance and he needs to pay for this. Barry quickly gets thrown out of the building, which works for him so that he can change to the Flash and run back in to see what the heck is going on. Well, the Flash really doesn't have time to mess around with these guys, and he quickly runs around them so fast that he sucks up all of the air and he knocks them out. And then he leaves them for the cops and takes off. But this isn't where the story for the Rogues ends. No, this is the Rogues' Rebellion. In Golden Glider, Captain Cold's sister appears and she walks through the police van and she takes Heatwave with her while leaving Cold there to die, as she puts it. She quickly picks up and moves Heatwave into a moving vehicle where Weather Wizard is waiting for him to get him out of there. She vanishes once again, leaving Captain Cold to his own devices. From there, Glider quickly moves to a speech that Dr. Elias is giving, Dr. Elias being the scientist that helped the Flash figure out what the Speed Force is. Since she can pass through things and no one can see her but the Flash, she reaches into Dr. Elias's chest and she stops his heart as she puts a piece of mirror into his artery. He then falls over and the Flash runs over to catch him. And then he's caught on camera holding what appears to be a dead Dr. Elias. Well, while the Flash is dealing with that, Heatwave melts a railway, Weather Wizard uses his weather powers to move a train, and they drive it into a giant glass side of a building and into the mirror world where Mirror Master is waiting to take it. With Dr. Elias dying, the murder pinned on the Flash, Captain Cold removed from the equation, and a whole train stolen, Golden Glider declares herself the new leader of the Rogues. But Captain Cold isn't quite as removed as they thought, and he doesn't agree with this. So wait. So we have the Rogues fighting against themselves, but why are they fighting against themselves, and what did they have to do with Dr. Elias? Let's go back a year, when the Rogues were normal guys with tech that would help them try and stop the Flash, but they were always defeated. Always. So one lone doctor named Dr. Elias offered something to the Rogues, the ability to have metahuman powers. And Captain Cold convinced the entire team to encode their very DNA with their own various weapons. But it didn't work right, and it exploded, and Lisa Snart, Captain Cold's sister, was caught in that explosion. Each of the Rogues suffered for their powers that day because their fearless leader, Captain Cold, convinced them to. Heatwave became a living fire that is constantly burning his own flesh. Weather Wizard's emotions match whatever the weather is now. Lisa Snart became the Golden Glider, a spirit of sorts always trapped in the astral plane. Mirror Master became trapped in the mirror world, and Cold, he's constantly at 0 degrees. So let's go back to the modern day, where the Rogues are fighting and the Flash can still save Dr. Elias if he can just find the shard of Mira that Golden Glider has put in there to kill him. But Cold's not a moron. He can't take out the entire cast of the Rogues by himself, so he freezes Dr. Elias in his current state so that the Flash and him can team up to put down his former friends. Captain Cold goes to town against his own sister while the Flash runs into the mirror world and he's chased by Heatwave and Weather Wizard. It looks like he's gonna fight the three of them while Captain Cold handles his own little family problems. The Flash takes down Weather Wizard, Heatwave, and Mirror Master like he's done multiple times before, and then he goes back to check on Captain Cold, only to be knocked out by a sucker punch from ice from Cold. Yep, Captain Cold just double-crossed the Flash, with whom he just teamed up with. He wanted to prove to the Rogues that he was smarter and better, and they need him, but he didn't really want to defeat them. Golden Glider even calls him out, saying, "Aren't you strong enough to defeat us yourself? You need him to help you?" And Captain Cold says, "Strength doesn't make you a leader. Neither does aiming as high as you guys did with the group. The Rogues don't need to go to that scale. The Rogues are family, and all of this infighting means nothing. We watch out for each other, and I'm a damn fine leader." So who's back on the Rogues, run by Captain Cold? But before anybody can answer, the sky opens up to rain giant pods onto the streets, and out steps Gorilla Grodd, here to conquer Central City. And the Flash is currently unconscious. So many plot threads in this arc. Heatwave remarks that this is a fine time to knock the Flash out, and Cold simply responds with, "How was I supposed to know that talking monkeys were going to invade?" Weather Wizard jumpstarts the Flash's heart, waking him up, and he wakes up to a gorilla invasion. And the Rogues look at him, and Captain Cold kinda says, "Truce?" The Flash's longest day ever continues as he begins to bounce off gorillas demanding to know where Grodd is. The Rogues and the Flash team up to defeat the entire gorilla platoon, and the Flash at least figures out Grodd is after the Flash's speed, because he wants to become the Lightbringer. He wants to lead the gorillas out of the shadows as their own savior. So he leaves the Rogues here to defend Central City, and he takes off at top speed to meet Gorilla Grodd. Cause, he stopped him so easily the first time, didn't he? Well, it would seem that at some point, Grodd got himself a little of the Speed Force also, and apparently he's now as fast as the Flash. The Flash tries a few tactics, but none of them seem to be working. And while this is going on, the Rogues try to continue defending the city. But it's getting harder and harder as the mental powers of an elder gorilla is projecting the loss of Central City is to a nuclear bomb. So no reinforcements, no help is coming to help everybody. The Flash keeps trying, but give Grodd speed and combine it with the strength that he already had, and the Flash just can't keep up anymore. And Grodd punches his mask clean off of his face. Well, Turbine ended up back in Central City all that time ago, and he ended up teaming up with a mourning Patty who thought that Barry was dead. And long story short, they also teamed up with a super intelligent gorilla named Solivar, and they're on their way to save the Flash. And they arrive just in time for Patty to see the Flash without his mask. Just as Gorilla Grodd is going for the kill though, he runs out of Speed Force. You see, his power had a limited amount and he just ran out. That's why he needs to eat the Flash, to get his unlimited power. Well, without any powers, Grodd is very weak, and Patty saves the day by throwing rocks at his head and then running over to an injured Flash. Back with the Rogues, they continue their battle and they begin to make their way to the Elder who's making the whole city appear as if it's under a nuclear attack. They begin to get a little overwhelmed though, but they also begin to learn how useful their new powers are to everything. And they even get Mirror Master into this fight. Patty brings Barry back to her house so he can recover, and he does just that, and he comes up with a plan to end all of this. He'll just give himself up to Grodd. He runs off to Grodd, who has had enough time to also recharge, and he gives him exactly what he wants. He uses his speed mind to think fast enough to open up a wormhole and bring himself and Grodd back into the Speed Force. Back into his timeline and the possible futures and the possible outcomes. Grodd and Barry stand in the Speed Force, absorbing all of this extra power. But Barry knows that he has this. No one can compete with the Flash and the Speed Force. Especially with nothing here to cause a problem. It's just him and Grodd. No city, no civilians, and no friends to protect. And just then, Iris falls in front of him. And in case you forgot, she's been in here since the boat at the start of this journey. But don't worry about that, because we're in the Speed Force, where the Flash is king. And he pummels Grodd through all of his chosen ones spouting nonsense. And while this is going on, the rogues finally push through and they cut off the Elder's connection. Now that everyone on the outside of Central City has realized that Central City is still here, the military rolls in to stop the guerrilla army. Back in the Speed Force, the Flash has no problems defeating Grodd in here. And he lets a woolly mammoth that's also stuck in time carry Grodd away. The Flash grabs Iris and her friends, and he starts running at top speed so they can finally get everyone out of the Speed Force once and for all. And that's it. The Flash has saved the day. Iris has been returned from the Speed Force, he saved Turbine and got him home, and the gorillas have gone home with their elders. And Grodd himself, he's now lost in the Speed Force. Oh, and Dr. Elias ended up pulling through, though he now wants to get back at the Flash for everything that the Speed Force has done to him.
Barry Allen runs through the city, just reflecting on everything he's been through recently. Gorillas invaded his city, the rogues are teaming up against him, being trapped in the Speed Force, and even his former friends showing up with weird cloning powers. But he's running through the city right now trying to figure out the latest problem. People have been dying. The 4 people who were granted Speed Force powers were Albert, Marissa, Gomez, and Iris West, the reporter that he's been getting closer to recently. Well, Barry Allen can actually sense them all within the Speed Force, but now Albert and Marissa are dead, and he has no clues as to what's going on or who could have possibly have done this. Well, Gomez was actually the first one to discover that there was somebody trying to kill them, and Gomez actually warned Albert before he was killed. So Albert created a 360-degree camera that would actually be able to track Speed Force speeds so that he can try and catch this killer. Not gonna lie, it's a bit convenient for Barry Allen's investigation, but Barry does find the camera and he hits playback on the time where Albert died to see if he can see who killed him. Well, after slowing down the speed of the footage, we only get to see one thing, a reverse lightning bolt symbol that is very similar to the Flash's own symbol. So he thinks long and hard. Who could possibly be using his symbol? And he realizes he does know somebody that's using his symbol, that Kid Flash in the Teen Titans. Well, the Flash has never actually met this Kid Flash. Kid Flash just showed up one day and he took the Flash's name and his symbol. Just not cool in the superhero community. So it's time for them to have a heart-to-heart, as it would seem. And after watching the news reports to see wherever the Kid Flash was going to pop up, he quickly tracks him down and we have a top-speed speedster chase. The Flash shows up quickly to chase down Kid Flash and get his answers. But Kid Flash, well, he runs. The two of them run around the world and they eventually end up in France, where the Kid Flash runs through the Louvre so he can throw the art off the walls, trying to distract the Flash while he catches them. Well, Barry Allen quickly catches all of them, and he just scoffs at how the Kid Flash has no respect for art. And with that, they continue around the world until they end up in the Sahara Desert, where Kid Flash runs so fast that he kicks up all of the sand, creating a sandstorm, so that he can lose the Flash in that. But Barry Allen just laughs at this. Kid Flash is not going to lose him that easily, but he does let him get a little ahead of him. Kid Flash eventually ends up in India, where he hides so he can try and have a bite to eat, and he calls in somebody to come pick him up, since he lost Barry Allen. And just as he says that, Barry Allen shows up and he grabs Kid Flash by the wrist. But that wasn't such a good idea, as a bolt of lightning shoots up into the sky. Barry gets to see into Kid Flash's future, and he realizes this kid is from the future, or something. He's not tapping into the Speed Force, he's tapping into something else. Scared out of his mind right now, Kid Flash takes off at top speed to go around the world one more time, and they begin to run over the ocean. The Flash begins to yell out, "Slow down, Kid Flash, you're gonna break gravity." But Kid Flash just looks back and laughs. "Too fast for you, old man?" as he breaks into a new tier of speed. But Barry was right, as Kid Flash is now running so fast that he no longer has the friction resistance to hold him to the ground, and he begins to float. float up into space aimlessly. Just as Barry Allen kicks it up a notch easily, going faster than Kid Flash so he can jump up and pull the kid back down to Earth before they both float up into space. Kid Flash finally calms down and he asks him, "What do you want?" So Barry explains that there's been a killer going around killing people who can tap into the Speed Force, but since Kid Flash doesn't tap into the Speed Force, he can't be the killer. But Barry does ask him, "Where did you get your powers? And where are you from? Because when I touched you, I saw some weird stuff." But that just puts Kid Flash on the defensive, refusing to tell Barry anything and refusing to help him. And after Barry offers to help Kid Flash try and figure out his own powers and where he's from, he just tells Barry that he has his own friends for that, and he leaves calling Barry just a loser. Barry realizes that the Kid Flash is just a stubborn kid, whom he'll have to help out later. But this doesn't help him at all figure out his current situation. Who is the killer that's been killing off people who can tap into the Speed Force? To make matters worse, while Barry was chasing the Kid Flash around the world, Gomez, one of the last two remaining civilians with powers, was murdered by the Reverse Flash. Which only leaves Iris left for this Reverse Flash to try and find and murder. Well, the Flash does a little math of his own and he realizes that the suit that he made to keep himself safe, well, it must also be masking his Speed Force tracings from the killer. So he makes Iris West a Flash suit of her own. And after receiving a few funny comments about how it's really tight on her, he takes her with him to test how well it can mask her while they go do some investigating at the location where they all came out of the Speed Force. Eventually, after doing a lot of investigating, the Flash and Iris find a piece of a monorail at the site. Interesting. So they quickly run back to the police station where the Flash leaves her in their protection while they look for fingerprints on this piece of the monorail. While they're investigating this, let's move for a second to Dr. Elias. If you remember very early on in our Flash stories, Dr. Elias was trying to study the Flash and his powers to the point of threatening the Flash's life. Well, Dr. Elias didn't vanish. No, he's actually been tapping into the Speed Force ever since that day, and he's pulled up all of this power into a device where he hopes to find a way to use it. But that's exactly what the Reverse Flash wants, a bounding supply of the Speed Force that he can absorb. You see, he hasn't just been killing off the people who can tap into the Speed Force, he's been absorbing their powers, and as the Reverse Flash makes his move to kill Dr. Elias, the Flash jumps in with a Speedster punch. The two speedsters, one evil and one good, begin their dance of speed fighting. Dr. Elias can't even see what's going on, it's moving so quickly, but the Flash may have met his match, as the Reverse Flash doesn't just move quickly, he moves in and out of time, and he gets the upper hand on the Flash. That is until Dr. Elias hits the Reverse Flash hard with a weapon from his lab, allowing the Flash to get in a sonic kick. But the Reverse Flash isn't done, and the Flash asks him, "Why are you doing this? Why are you killing off people with Speed Force powers?" Well, the Reverse Flash grabs the Flash by the stomach and they take their speedster fight into the streets, as the Reverse Flash explains. Everyone who's a part of the Speed Force shares the same power, and by removing everyone, I'll be at my fullest power, and I'll be able to move back time. I'll be able to change everything. But the Flash asks him, why? As Reverse Flash tears into him, destroying bits and pieces of Central City as they move so fast that just being near glass shatters it. The Flash realizes that this is going bad very quickly, and he takes the fight outside of Central City at speeds that no one can even register. But one man has been registering it. One man has been chasing them with his laser rifle. Dr. Elias uses his motorcycle to catch up to them on the outskirts of Central City. Reverse Flash sees this as his chance, and he finally gets a leg up on the Flash as he grabs Dr. Elias' gun and he looks at the Flash. Checkmate you. But the gun hits Iris West as she yells, "No, Daniel!" You see, she used her speed to get here as quickly as she could because they discovered that the fingerprints on the monorail turned out to be Daniel West, her brother. The beam from the rifle hits Iris in the chest. She falls to the ground dead. Daniel West looks at his fallen sister in shock. What did he do? How did he get to this? How could he kill the sister that he was trying to save? The Flash goes in screaming at the top of his lungs, ready to tear the Reverse Flash apart. But the Reverse Flash is now desperate. He wasn't supposed to kill his sister. And he grabs the Flash by the throat, and he begins to absorb the Flash's Speed Force as he's yelling, "I'll fix this! I'll change everything!" He takes the Flash and he absorbs everything, allowing him to finally go back in time, back to when he was a child. Daniel West looks around at his own past, and he sees the child versions of both himself and Iris. And then he murders his own father to the Flash's horror. His father abused the both of them as children, and he just couldn't deal with it anymore. He needed to prevent it from ever even happening. He wanted to give himself and Iris a good life, a life where they didn't have to deal with their father. He then grabs the Flash by the head as he begins to change and alter into a monster. The Flash says to Daniel, "You need to stop. You're causing yourself more trauma than your father ever did." And Daniel stops. He stops right there because he realizes what he's become. A monster as young Iris and young Daniel look at him with tears in their eyes, terrified as to what is this thing? What just killed their father? And he looks at the Flash and he doesn't know what to do. He's a monster. And the Flash looks up at him and he tells him, "Daniel, what makes us strong isn't going back and correcting things. This is the repercussion for what you're trying to do. There are repercussions for everything that we do. We need to deal with the bad things that have happened to us. That's what makes us stronger. We need to move forward with our lives. You need to let go, Daniel." And Daniel just holds his head down and he says, "I don't know how." So the Flash reaches out and he says, "Let me take it from here." With Daniel finally letting go of his hold on the Speed Force, the Flash is able to absorb all of Daniel's powers, the ability to alter time, to just travel through time, to change things. He even takes on the Reverse Flash's armor as the Speed Force allows the Flash to set right time, to set right the ship. The Flash travels at speeds so fast that he alters time once again, and he manages to keep Daniel from killing his own father and altering the past. He doesn't even know how he did it, and he even states he'll never understand the power that he possesses. Once everything's been fixed and corrected, he takes Daniel and they travel right to the moment they left, right where he finds that Iris has actually survived. She isn't dead, but she is disgusted with her brother. How could he kill all of those people? He must have been possessed by something. But Daniel tells her it was all him, and once he gets his powers back, he'll do it all over again. The Flash quickly looks around at the situation and he sees Dr. Elias preparing to fire that rifle once again at the Flash. But he just runs over and disarms the Doctor and breaks the gun. Our story ends there. The Flash runs off to his current girlfriend Patty, who's been waiting for him this whole time at the dance, and he makes it just in time to be center stage for her. Eventually, he also tracks down Dr. Elias once again and he tells him that the good doctor is lucky that Iris is alive, because if she wasn't, he couldn't guarantee that he wouldn't have hurt Dr. Elias. But don't try anything again, Doctor. Our partnership is done. Daniel himself is now in Iron Heights with the rest of the Flash villains. Man, he just doesn't see what he did as wrong. He still wants to fix his own past. And the Flash? Well, the Flash is running. He was taught by his mother a long time ago to just move forward and not dwell on the past. We must always move forward. We must always get stronger. And we shouldn't let the past hold us back. Midwest Territory, 1848. A man finishes his work in the mines and a man appears before him. The man sees that it was his friend Marshall, but he came back. Marshall looks over the diamonds laid out and Sutter tells him they did it. They finally did it. But Marshall sees Sutter waited until he left. He wanted to take all of the diamonds for himself. So he did what anyone would do to someone who lied to them: kill him. In the current times, Barry Allen follows the trail of some thieves who decided to rob every jewelry store on the block. Thankfully, the trail isn't hard to miss, and Barry follows the fiery footsteps down into the subway to find Chroma and Tar Pit arguing with each other. Chroma argues that they shouldn't have hit so many stores, and Tar Pit says, "What's it matter? It's not like they're gonna outrun the Flash or anything." Barry easily takes down Chroma and then extinguishes Tar Pit, and Barry tells them that they really should consider not working together because they might end up. Before Barry can finish stating killing each other, he looks to see a group of skeletal remains. Once the police arrive, Barry and the rest examine the site, and Barry notices these bones have been here for years. But why did they suddenly stop? Captain Fry tells everyone because they already got the villain. Everyone asks if he knows who did this, and Captain Fry says that it looks like the burial site for the Broomhill Butcher. His real name was Hollis Holden, and he's currently already serving 32 life sentences for what happened 20 years ago. Barry mentions that he grew up in Broomhill. Why doesn't this story of a killer sound familiar? So he decides that he's going to help with the case, but Captain Fry tells him no. Forrest will be on the case, and then he walks off. back at the station, Barry walks with Patty, and Patty asks what's up with him not getting to work on the case. And Barry's not sure. But regardless of him and the captain's relationship outside of work, he'll follow protocol. He wasn't put on the case. But he can't help but think about it, and that's when he starts to put together a timeline of all of the Broomhill Butcher's murders. This might not be Barry's case, but he's sure gonna try and help. A short while later, Barry is called in and told that there are 6 murders linked to cold cases within the past 10 years of the killings. If Hollis had been locked up for 20 years, then he would have had someone else helping him. The other reason Barry is interested in this case, though, is because those murders happened right around the time Nora Allen was killed. Barry tries to get some information from his father, but his father refused to talk about it, so he goes to someone else who was there, Hollis himself. Barry tells him that he knows that there was someone else, he just needs a name, but Hollis tells him it doesn't matter. He's already dead. As the cell doors open for dinner, he says so will he, and he jumps off the ledge. Barry runs off and grabs him before he can fall, but as Barry's holding onto the ledge, a voice tells him that it must be his lucky day. The man steps on Barry's hand, and a voice tells him it's his old friend Girder. Barry runs over, grabbing a guard's gun, and then he hits Girder with it, and then Girder stops and then falls to the ground. Barry puts the gun back and tells Hollis that he needs a name, the dead or not. So Hollis tells him Archibald Dillon. Later, Captain Fry calls Barry into his office to tell him to leave the case alone. He's not going to find any answers linking to his mother's case. Barry says that he needs to do this. He does, and he wants to know if he can exhume the body of Archibald Dillon. Fry tells him no, but Barry tells him it's easy for you to say. It wasn't your mother. Fry says no, she wasn't, but he did love her more than he'll ever know. His mother and him had history. Barry asks why bring this up now, and that's when Fry tells him that they're going to talk about it later. But this guy did not kill Nora. Barry leaves, but that doesn't stop him. He'll dig up the body on his own. So he goes out there and starts to dig up the grave, and when he opens the casket, a spirit appears yelling, "All Fletchers must die!" The spirit then begins to possess Barry Allen, but there's another person possessing him as well, Dead Man. Images of the spirit begin to fade in and out. It's like Barry isn't the one talking to the spirit, someone else is, and the spirit says that this one can help him. Release him! And the other voice says, he can't have the Flash. Barry struggles and he hears the voices inside of him, and he's had enough. Then 2 spirits fly out of his body. The spirit sees another civilian and jumps into him and escapes. And then Barry starts to get back up and he asks Dead Man, "What are you doing here? Why did you possess me?" Dead Man explains that he did so because he just released the spirit of the Keystone Killer. And Barry asks him, "Are you serious, the Keystone Killer?" The Keystone Killer is just an old ghost story taught to kids about bad things greed can do to people. All I wanted to do was exhume the body and get some DNA from Archibald, who was an accomplice to the Broomhill Butcher. Dead Man explains that the Broomhill Butcher and Archibald are both hosts of that evil spirit. So evil that it even disrupted the balance of the spirit world. The spirit also said death to the Fletchers, and does that name mean anything to you, Barry? Barry says that the Fletchers were a founder family here in Central City, and he might be talking about them, so Dead Man states that there's only one way to find out. Barry brings Dead Man to Hollis so that he can possess him and read back his memories as the Keystone Killer. After a short while, Dead Man returns and states that he knows what happened, and it was pretty messed up. The killer was named Ulysses Sutter, and he used to struggle to support his family. One day during the gold rush, him and his friend Marshall Fletcher set off to try and strike it rich, but because of bad weather, they had to stop before they ever made it to California, and they started digging on unclaimed land. Marshall eventually went home with no luck, but later after he left, Ulysses found diamonds. One night, Marshall came back to check on him, and seeing him with diamonds, Marshall thought that Ulysses was holding out on him, so he killed him. Except Ulysses didn't die. He ended up starving to death after Marshall blew up the mine shaft. Barry says the Fletcher family has been around for 150 years. Their bloodline could be in the thousands. Barry and Dead Man head over to the Hall of Records to try and look up the Fletcher family tree, but for some reason their genealogy stopped in 1989. Barry asks Dead Man if he found anything, and he did, but it's not good. Turns out the spirit that they are chasing is fueled by hate, which makes him the worst kind of evil spirit, but he does have a weakness. He can't possess people for a long time without going for another host. The only exception to this would be when he jumped into someone with his bloodline, which is why he was able to stay in Hollis for so long. If Dead Man can see the horrifying things that Hollis did, does that mean that he can understand why Barry Allen is doing this? Dead Man tells him that while he was inside of Hollis, he did see his victims and his mother was not among them. Barry, Hollis didn't kill your mom. Barry gets a message from Patty telling him to head over to the museum, it's very important, and once he gets there, he finds that the guard has been killed like the rest, but there's something else. The Marshall Fletcher exhibit has 2 things missing, a helmet and an axe that he used. Patty mentions that Fry found out that she was helping on this case with Barry, and he pulled her off of it so she didn't get a chance to run the DNA that he wanted. But then Barry gets it, the DNA! The pertinent records were gone, but where else would he get information but the police database? Barry runs into the station, but it's already too late. He sees Singh standing there with a pickaxe and dead bodies face across the floor. He's currently possessed. Singh says that he just found them like this, and Barry believes him, but to confirm everything, he watches the security footage and he gets the answers that he needed. Ulysses' spirit originally tried to take over Barry when he opened up the casket of Archibald. After getting inside of Barry, Ulysses saw that he had a new way to look for those of the Fletcher bloodline through the CCPD's database. So Ulysses hopped from person to person until he went into Forrest, and what he found was that Captain Fry is Ulysses' last descendant, meaning if he possessed him, he would be able to go back to the killings. Barry heads over to Captain Fry's house and he finds Forrest there, but no Captain Fry. He then asks Forrest what happened, and Forrest doesn't remember much of what happened. He does know that Captain Fry left a note addressed to the Keystone Killer. The note said that he was the last living Sutter, and then challenged him to meet him at the spot where they met, but where Forrest doesn't know. Barry runs over to the police station to see if anyone has seen Fry, but no luck, and while him and Patty review the records, the one thing that she finds out is that Daryl Fry might actually be his biological father. That was the thing that Barry's mother and him had all those years ago that he wanted to talk to Barry about. And if that's true, then the ghost might be able to permanently possess Barry Allen. Barry says that he doesn't have any time for speculation, and he begins to search through Captain Fry's offices, going through all of the old case files. But as soon as he finds what he needs, he leaves, dropping the file containing the DNA paternity results to Barry Allen. Fry stands outside waiting, and finally the Ulysses spirits comes to claim him. Ulysses tells him that it's no use. Fry won't return him just because he brought him to his resting place. Fry says the last time he made the mistake of burying the body, but this time there won't be anything left to bury. Ulysses moves in to grab him, but Fry pulls his arms out of his coat, revealing that he pulled the pins on several grenades. Ulysses tries to gain control, but before the grenades go off, Barry runs in, grabbing all of the grenades, letting them explode in a nearby lake. As Barry is blown back to land, Ulysses tells Fry that he is no Sutter, but because he now can see his memories, he knows that it's Barry who is the Sutter bloodline. Ulysses flies over to Barry, but before he can, the House of Mystery appears and falls before him, with Deadman stepping out. Deadman tells him no, but Barry runs in and tells Ulysses that it's him he wants. Go ahead and possess him. But as he does, Barry begins to vibrate, and Ulysses asks, "What is this?" Barry tells him, actually, it's me in control. So Ulysses is stuck inside of Barry with no control. Barry asks Deadman where his trap was, so bring him over there. And Deadman tells him, 3rd floor, 2nd door on the right. In a flash, Barry returns telling him that it's done. And Deadman asks him how. It's actually really simple. Barry did what he did before when he kicked out Ulysses and Deadman. He vibrated at different frequencies, which allowed him to remain in control while Ulysses was inside of him. That was the plan the whole time. He just didn't know where to put Ulysses once he caught him. But then, when the House of Mystery fell, he put it all together. After Deadman and the house leave, Fry asks if Ulysses is finally gone, and Barry tells him yes. Later back at the station with Barry, Fry explains that he was just trying to protect him, which is why he removed the records and changed them in the system. And about his mother, he once loved her at a time before Barry was born, but the timing just wasn't right. So he watched from afar, and after everything had happened, he just wanted Nora in his life, and raising Barry was a way he could do that. Captain Fry leaves Barry and Patty, but later he pays a visit to the prison. He meets with Barry's father, and he tells him that he knows Barry comes by, but no matter how many times he asks, he can never really explain who killed Nora. "5 years from now, the Flash arrives at the scene of an accident where they're carrying Iris West away in an ambulance. The police captain tells Flash to back off because they haven't even ID'd the kid yet, and the Flash pauses. Kid? A teenager flatlined right after the EMT got here. The Flash takes off as the captain tells him, "You could have stopped this, Flash. Why weren't you here?" The Flash runs over to see Wally West dead on the street. We now come to the current day, where the Flash is dealing with the aftermath from the events of Forever Evil, and Daniel West, the Reverse Flash, being in prison. He feels weird, like he's losing time, and he's seeing a doctor because he wants to help everyone. Why can't he be that fast? Fast enough to save everyone? 20 years from now, Barry is in a blue Flash suit, and he's counting all of the years that he's lost. But he knows how to fix it now. He can make everything better. And as he looks at a newspaper clipping of the death of Wally West, he takes off to one more stop before he begins his journey. The graveyard, and Iris West rolls up to him in her wheelchair. "I wasn't expecting you here. Only a person who doesn't want to be seen sneaks into the cemetery at night." Staring down at Wally's gravestone, Flash tells her, "I'm the reason Wally isn't 32, married, and has 2 kids today. I'm the reason you're in that chair. I should have been there. Stop it. You don't get to do this. I made peace with my mistake a long time ago. Why do you even care? Iris, And the Flash removes his mask, revealing to her that he is Barry Allen. "I loved him too, like he was my own." "Barry? No! All this time, the years we've spent together." "None of that matters, Iris. Time is running out, and I will fix this the only way that I know how. No, don't you dare say that! Not to me! You know what those idiot notions did to Daniel. Even if you succeed, you won't come back the same. I'm not coming back, Iris. Goodbye. I'm sorry for everything. And with that, the Flash takes off for Gorilla City. Sitting in the throne is Grodd, king of Gorilla City, eating the brains of Eobard Thawne from the 25th century. The Speed Force is broken, Grodd. You can't ignore it. It fractured the first time Daniel West traveled through time, and we've made this worse. It's time I buried you for your actions against the Speed Force. And with that, the Flash charges into Grodd's back. Grodd gets up to his feet. How often must we play this game, Flash? You either run away before I kill you, or you run away because you won't kill me. No more, Grodd. You use the time stream like your own personal smorgasbord, and I'm here to end that. You want to fight to the death? Then you've got it. He rockets in and sucker punches Grodd with the force of his speed. But Grodd also has the Speed Force at his disposal, and he manages to match Flash's speed, catching him and shoving him into a wall. At that moment, the Speed Force creates some form of feedback, throwing Grodd off of the Flash. You see what you've done? The Speed Force is the lifeblood of time itself, and it's bleeding out of us. The Flash then runs over to Grodd and he slaps him on the side of the head. Grodd begins to come to his senses and he hears a beeping in his ear. What did you do? I put a micro bomb in your ear, and no matter how smart you get, you will still be a gorilla with fat gorilla fingers. And then, Grodd's head explodes. The Flash walks over to his headless corpse. Wish me luck. If I succeed, you won't need it to have been executed like this. And then he's gone, traveling through time to correct it finally. 16 years from now, the Flash re-enters the timeline and he sees that he's made it to the right time and the right location. This is the time that Mirror Master was trying to rob a gala, and he's right in the building next to the Flash right now. Mirror Master begins taking a hostage and then demanding that everyone throw their valuables into the nearest mirror. But that's when the Flash arrives and he begins throwing the civilians into the mirrors. Mirror Master then jumps in the mirror to get away from Flash, but since Flash threw everyone in, he also threw the cops in, which hold up Mirror Master. So Mirror Master jumps out, leaving only him and Flash on the outside of the mirrors. The Flash then runs over, breaks Mirror Master's arm, taking his mirror gun, and he throws it through the mirror to one of the police officers. He then tells the police officer to wait 100 Mississippis and then come back out. Then turning back to Mirror Master, he tells him, "Your arm won't hurt much longer. I came to help you, Scudder. What you don't realize is there's about to be a freak earthquake that'll shatter all of these mirrors, and it would have killed 11 people here." Then as proof, the Flash holds up a newspaper clipping from the next day. "The people died here because I was late. I was losing time. But I'm going back now to prevent any of this from happening, to fix it all." And then the Flash takes off again, traveling through time, leaving Mirror Master there alone in the middle of all of the mirrors as the earthquake comes through, shattering them and killing him. 12 years from now, the Flash arrives at Captain Cold's bedside to be there when Captain Cold passes from bone cancer. This is another moment that he was late to, and he's felt guilty for it ever since. He has a seat next to his former enemy and his friend, and he explains that the Speed Force is broken, but he's here to fix it, to make up for all of those times that he lost, to save Wally. Remember when they let you join the Justice League with a full pardon? You have no idea how much that peeved me. You in the Justice League. I admire you for it now, though. You didn't care about the innocence you hurt or the life you left behind. You left all of that in the past." The Flash then looked up at the clock and saw that it was about time. So he took Leonard's hand, and just as Leonard woke up and shockingly saw the Flash there, the Flash responded with, "I'm here, Leonard. You and me in the end." And with tears coming down his face, the Flash closed Leonard's eyes. And then he ran to his next stop. 7 years from now, the Flash runs through the city at top speed, grabbing the Trickster while he's in his civilian clothes, and he brings him to the top of a building, where he holds him off of it. You're about to drop robots that you invented that are made from rolled up coins in a bank vault, and it's gonna try and steal that vault. You made a mistake, Flash. You should have grabbed me after I dropped them off. And just then the coin robots begin to attack the Flash. So he drops the Trickster off the side of the building, allowing the Flash to defend himself. As the Flash is fighting them though, the robots take off down the side of the building to catch their master. The Flash then races down the side of the building. It won't be that easy, Trickster, and he destroys every one of the robots, allowing the Trickster to continue to fall. "I'm ready to die, Axel. Are you?" And then the Trickster screams, "I don't want to die!" Attaboy, Axel. And with that, the Flash creates a tornado to carry him and the Trickster down safely. The vault you were going to lift was going to be dropped on a mother, a father, and their 1-month-old baby. And then you committed suicide shortly after. If you ever think about going back to crime, look at this newspaper article and remember. The Flash then throws the newspaper article down to the Trickster and he takes off into the time stream, leaving the Trickster right there again. Confused, the Trickster looks at the newspaper article. 5 years from now, the event that started all of this, the day that Wally West died. The Reverse Flash is running through the city looking for the present-day Flash, screaming, "Come out of hiding, Flash!" But the Blue Flash grabs him by the throat. "This ends now, Daniel." "How are you so strong?" Daniel says as he tries to break free. "I'm not the Flash that you remember, and I'm gonna stop you from killing your nephew and putting your sister in a wheelchair. Wally and Iris have nothing to do with this! I escaped Iron Heights to take you down!" "You caused more damage than you thought, and Iris thought that she could talk you down, so she was driving over to stop you, but you damaged the road and their car was about to flip over. They were so desperate to help you that they never even put on their seatbelts." "Let me go! I can save them!" "No, I'm here now, and I get to be the hero, Daniel." And with that, Blue Flash breaks Daniel's neck. He then runs over to Iris and Wally's car, pulling them out of the car as it flips over. Iris then sees Daniel dead on the ground and realizes that the Flash just killed him. "Get away from him, Wally!" "No, you don't understand." But as Blue Flash is trying to explain, the Flash from the current day arrives, the one in the red costume. Iris and Wally are super confused, but the Flash grabs the Blue Flash thinking that it's Daniel in a new costume. So the Blue Flash removes his mask, showing everyone that it's a future Barry. How is this possible? The Speed Force is damaged because of me. I let too many people claim power from it, and Daniel and Grodd abused it. The wound in the Speed Force is why we're losing time, Barry, and the only solution is to travel back to the point when the wound was at its smallest and seal it. In order to accomplish that, it looks like I'm gonna have to go through you. And Blue Flash punches Red Flash with his full strength, throwing him back. The unstable levels of the Speed Force throw them both back with a giant feedback explosion. With blue and red lightning going off all around them, the Blue Flash grabs the Red Flash and gets ready to end this. So the Red Flash figures, if his future self is going to end this, he has nothing left to lose. And he grabs the Blue Flash's symbol on his chest and he holds onto it tight, forcing the Speed Force feedback to strike them both with full force. But at that exact moment, Wally comes over to see if he can help and he gets struck by the Speed Force feedback. The explosion is huge, leaving a crater on the ground, and the Red Flash is left bleeding out on the ground while the Blue Flash is nowhere to be found. Wally runs over using his new super speed, and he's shocked that he is now officially a speedster. And as the Red Flash dies in Wally's arms, he tells Wally to train and find the Blue Flash in the time stream so that he can end this. With lightning pouring from his eyes, Wally tells Barry he swears he'll stop that twisted version of him. And now, we're at current day, which is where the Blue Flash has been thrown to. Before everything, when the time slipping first started. He takes off for his former house and he grabs the current day Flash while he's making breakfast and he carries him out of the house. They go at lightning speeds to the Salt Flats where Daniel first came crashing out of the mirror world and became the Reverse Flash, where this all started. Blue Flash explains that when the monorail that gave Daniel his powers crashed here, it punctured the Speed Force, and then he went back in time not knowing what he was doing. Barry, look at your watch. It's nearly 10 minutes behind already. Every time you tap into the Speed Force, you lose time. You'll lose more and more, and you'll fail Central City. Look behind you, and you'll see the wound. With a large enough explosion of Speed Force energy, we can seal this wound. And you're the sacrifice! And with that, Blue Flash punches the modern-day Barry Allen. He begins to punch him all over with ease, not having any issues with the fight. You see, it was a few more years until I realized that I should learn to fight. But if you kill me, won't you cease to exist? I saw Back to the Future. The Speed Force doesn't work that way. It won't affect me because I'm not in that time anymore. If it did, I would prevent us from even being born and prevent this entire mess. So current day Barry suits up and the Red Flash begins fighting the Blue Flash. He still doesn't stand a chance though as the Blue Flash just wrecks him again. Blue Flash then grabs Red Flash by the throat and he holds him up to the wound in time, ready to finish this once and for all. When he gets hit by another speedster. Wally West has arrived, grown up and trained. He spent his life learning how to control his powers, and he has now fulfilled his promise to go back in time and stop the Blue Flash. Wally and Blue Flash begin to fight it out, but Wally is better trained than the Blue Flash, and he easily dodges and strikes, getting his hits in. Realizing he's about to lose, Blue Flash throws a series of nails at Red Flash, screaming, "He has to die to end this!" Wally runs in front of the nails, and he takes all of the hits to the chest. "No!" Blue Flash screams as Wally hits the ground. But Wally was granted his powers by absorbing the power from Barry, so his abilities are a little different, and he can absorb all of the Speed Force energy that is pumping into Red Flash right now. So he takes it all in, all of the Speed Force wound energy that's pumping into Red Flash, and he explodes into Speed Force energy. With smoke clearing, only the Blue Flash remains, and he steps forward, realizing that his goal has been accomplished. Wally is gone, and the current day Red Flash is gone. But the Blue Flash's systems read that the Speed Force energy is returning to normal. The plan worked. So where is the Red Flash, our Barry Allen? He wakes up in a jungle with a dinosaur trying to eat him, and as he gets up to run, he realizes he doesn't have the Speed Force anymore. No super speed. How will he get home to fix all of this? In the final battle against himself, the Flash of the current day vanished in an explosion of Speed Force energy that would leave the Blue Flash alone in the current time period. And he doesn't know what to do now. He is from 20 years in the future, where Iris is in a wheelchair, Wally West is dead, and thousands of people died due to him being too slow. But he fixed it. It's over now. And as he removes his mask, he sees that somehow he is taking the place of his past self. He looks like he did in this time period, young again. He's been given a second chance to fix everything, and he's about to go home. He runs back to the house that he had back in this time period to find his then girlfriend, Patty. He grabs her and he gives her a big kiss. He missed her so much. She finds the blue outfit odd and she asks him why he sewed the watch that she gave him into the suit. But he explains that this is a new suit with lots of enhancements to protect him. She then pushes him along, telling him that he needs to get shaved and ready for work. And he does, and he begins to live the life that he had 20 years before everything ended so badly. He gets out to try again with Wally, and he sees old friends, and he makes new friendships earlier, the ones that he knows are going to pan out in the future. He also sets things into motion, things that need to be revealed earlier and prevented, like what the city did with all of the bodies from the events of Forever Evil. They were storing unnamed bodies in a storage container on the harbor. Unnamed bodies with families wanting to know where they were. Did they survive the attack? Knowing this information, he dropped off the location of the bodies with Iris West, allowing her career to get jump-started. Everything is going perfectly since the Red Flash, the proper day Flash, is still missing. And you know what? Since the Blue Flash is back here, he's changing things for the better. He's making people's lives better. The Blue Flash decides that he also needs to prevent some killers that got away with a lot before he was able to stop them. He runs to the home of a hacker, one that would have gotten away with murder due to a technicality in the justice system, the one that got away and made Barry start to distrust the justice system. Blue Flash vibrates through the wall and he surprises this man, and then he vibrates his hand into the kid's chest, rupturing his heart. Everything has to be better this time. Heading back to the police office the next day, he agrees to take on the case of identifying all of the bodies that Iris was able to find, while Patty leads the investigation into this mysteriously murdered man that came in the night before. When they perform the autopsy, she discovers a ruptured heart, something that she's only seen ever done by the Reverse Flash. But Daniel West is locked up in Iron Heights, and she wonders what Speedster could have done this. As Blue Flash continues filing out the bodies, another report comes in that Mirror Master is running around with another rogue. But this guy isn't a rogue. He's a guy trying out for the rogues, and he has no idea what he's doing as he's spraying flames all over, potentially harming innocents. Mirror Master tells him to stop. The rogues don't kill, but this guy's not listening. The Blue Flash runs over, and Mirror Master is already prepared for him as he prepares to fire on him. But this new guy doesn't know when to quit, and he begins to throw flames all over the place, potentially harming more innocents. Realizing that he brought an out-of-control kid to the fight with the Flash, Mirror Master calls the whole thing off, and he begins to pull the kid through his mirror so that they can escape. But as the kid's arm is going through the mirror, Blue Flash throws one of his nails at the mirror, shattering it, severing the guy's arm. But you're the Flash. You wouldn't kill him. You saw how careless he was. He could have easily harmed dozens of innocents. And then the Blue Flash raises a spike, ready to kill this kid. But if I end it here, he'll never have a chance to. But what stops him is Iris West watching nearby. Let him go, Flash! Blue Flash throws the kid to the police and he takes off. And Iris begins to think, I have a new headline. The Flash is a killer. So she meets with Patty to try and get more dirt on the Flash, and Patty reports the death of the man who had his heart ruptured. They both figure something needs to be done about this new Flash. They don't believe that it can be him, but there's really no other option. Meanwhile, the Red Flash is the one that's supposed to be in this time period, and he's stranded in the Speed Force, misplaced from time. There's other people here too, and they have an idea how to get everyone out of the Speed Force and back to their proper times. but it's going to require them fighting off various dinosaurs and scaling a nearby mountain to the Speed Force temple that's located nearby. But back with the Blue Flash, he realizes that he can stop all of the horrible events that he couldn't prevent, and there's one in particular that will claim hundreds of people real soon. Not only that, but the killer is going to go free. And knowing what's going to happen, the Blue Flash runs to the nearby ceremony celebrating the new citywide Wi-Fi grid. He runs up to the ceremony and he picks out the killer right away because he's kind of a man exploding with electrical powers, and he punches him straight to the ground, declaring, "This time you die, Overload," just in time for Patty and Iris to hear him say it. Meanwhile, on the Speed Force, Red Flash has managed to make it to the temple, where he reads the descriptions on the walls, asking why these people never came up here to get out of the Speed Force before. And that's when he reads the symbols and realizes they needed a lightning rod. They needed the Flash, and they knock him unconscious. Back with the Blue Flash, he ignores the women, and he raises his hand to finish off Overload. But Patty runs over and she grabs his fist just as he's coming down to hit Overload, and he throws her across the street. She gets up hurt, and Iris runs over telling Blue Flash to stay away from them. Don't you dare touch her again. This was the exact moment Overload needed as the mayor in Central City turns on the citywide Wi-Fi, giving him all of his power, and he hits the Blue Flash with the full force of his abilities, while the Red Flash gets strapped down to the altar of the Speed Force temple. Blue Flash runs over and he uppercuts Overload. Confused, Overload has no idea why his charge didn't kill the Flash. "Oh, you see, Overload, I've had 20 years to get ready for this, and I prepared this suit just in case I ever found you." Overload then looks over the Flash. "Oh, I see. Well, there's some electricity on you, isn't there?" And he blows up the watch on the Blue Flash's hand, blowing his hand up. Patty runs up. "Oh my God, Barry, your hand!" And Blue Flash just spills the beans. "Patty, I'm so sorry. You need to know that I'm not who you think I am. I'm not the Barry you know. I took his place, I stole his life. I'm from the future and I'm here to fix the past mistakes. But I've just made everything worse." Meanwhile, deep in the Speed Force, the real Flash, the Red Flash, is getting pumped full of Speed Force energy, reviving his powers. Blue Flash holds his hand out and the suit begins rebuilding his hand with a robotic hand. And that's when he figures it out. If he can't hit Overload due to the power he's absorbing, he'll stop the signal and stop the power absorption. He runs around the entire plaza, grabbing everyone's cell phones and shutting them all off. And then he runs up to the Wi-Fi tower and he shuts that off too. With no signal pumping into the area, Overload's power is shut down. Overload smiles. "My power, it's gone. The noise has stopped. I can't hear the noise anymore. Thank you, Flash. You took my pain away. I thought you wanted to kill me." Blue Flash falls to his knees. Not that man anymore. And at that moment inside of the Speed Force, there's a massive feedback striking both the Red Flash and the man that turned him into a lightning rod with the power of speed. Realizing that he now has his powers back, Red Flash gets up and he runs out of there as fast as he can. He needs to return home. As he re-enters his own time stream and he lands back in the proper spot, he lands in front of the Blue Flash right after he stomped Overload. "You!" they both cry out. But Red Flash's adventures in the Speed Force aren't over yet, as the man that was using him as a lightning rod runs out of the Speed Force and into the current time. Selkirk is here to play. "I'm not done with you yet, Flash. You have the Speed Force energy that I crave." He begins throwing rocks at both of the Flashes, and the Red Flash grabs the Blue Flash, and they run off into the forest, away from all of the innocent civilians. "Selkirk can't go free," Red Flash tells the Blue Flash. "He's a madman. I want to use a Speed Force explosion to remove him from this time period, just like you and I did earlier." "Then give him to me. I'll do it," Blue tells Red. "No, you're injured already," Red replies. "Don't you get it? I don't deserve to be here. This is where I make good on what I've done." So Blue runs into Selkirk and he grabs hold, causing another massive Speed Force explosion, which leaves another crater on the ground. Red runs up to see Blue getting absorbed by the Speed Force. "Barry, I'm so sorry. I was so arrogant. Please take a different path than me. Don't waste your years thinking of only vengeance. But there's one more thing that I need to let you know. I found a clue as to who killed our mother. You need to remember the name. Thawne." And with that, Blue fades away, leaving this time period forever. And Red stays there, feeling defeated. Meanwhile, somewhere else in time, Selkirk has been thrown into another time, another place, with his back broken. Someone picks him up and begins to carry him away, while someone else tells him, "You'll begin to understand the power that you've claimed. I'm here to help you. Professor Zoom will teach you." Our tale begins in 1520, with the woman on the edge of a cliff and men trying to push her over the side. But between the soldiers, an old man steps forward. She warns him not to grow any closer or she will kill him, and he tells her not to worry. His name is Eobard Thawne, and he knows of her powers, and he is here to save her. He tells her that he knows her story. She is the infamous Fountain of Youth. It is a power that she possesses, and in return for giving him back his youth, he will save her. Realizing that she is about to be murdered, she accepts this, granting Eobard Thawne his youth, and then using his long fingernails in an insane amount of speed, he murders everyone who would dare do this poor woman harm. He stops and he tells her, "The lightning chose you, as it chose me. Now there are others we must find, for it is our destiny to destroy a demon." What's the demon's name? The people will eventually come to call him the Flash. Eobard went to 1883 where he was able to save a man with the ability to make himself thin and turn himself into a shadow from the men that would kill him for stealing jewels. Then, in 1957, he saved a woman who killed a man for calling her a witch due to her powers of being unbreakable, the unstoppable woman. And then in 1982, he helped a man who could turn into a tornado who had then lost control. He told them all the same story, that they were all chosen by the lightning to stop a demon known as the Flash in the future, and he would need all of them. What they don't know is that he created each of those situations that he saved them from. But enough about Eobard Thawne. You came for one man, one hero, one demon, the Flash! Right now he is standing in front of a man in a robotic suit. This is my home. You mess with Central City, you mess with the Flash. And then he rockets at top speed to get a punch in. When time stops. Professor Zoom is literally riding on the Flash's back, slowing him down by just a fraction of a second, and the Flash can see him in the reflection of the mirror next to him. So as the Flash is coming in for his move, he takes a blow to the head. The Flash hits the ground confused, and he looks like he's just seen a ghost. But never mind that, he gets back up and he begins to run circles around the goon, sucking out all of the air and suffocating him. The man in the robotic suit hits the ground hard, cracking it. And the Flash runs to a nearby window to see if what he saw is still there. What was the yellow-suited man? Meanwhile, across town in Iron Heights, Barry Allen's father, Henry Allen, has been imprisoned for the supposed death of his wife, Nora Allen. Barry doesn't believe that it actually happened ever since the day it happened, and he's been working on the case in his spare time, looking to find the true killer. But his father won't stop telling everyone that it was him, that he in fact did kill his wife. To make matters even worse for Barry's investigation, Henry Allen just faked a heart attack and he staged a jailbreak. He took some criminals with him and he goes to a warehouse where he begins to put his own plans into motion. Except that Professor Zoom arrives, displaced from time, and he begins setting things into motion with a smirk. He flips the fire alarm and he gets the security personnel to come running in. Henry begs them not to do anything. Don't shoot. He's an innocent man and he's just trying to save someone. But once again, Professor Zoom slows down time and he takes the security guard's gun and then he places it into Henry's hands before pulling the trigger. Zoom then leaves and Henry is flabbergasted. I didn't do it. I couldn't have. The Flash can't believe that his father escaped. He refuses to believe it, and even after he corners a member of the escaped group, the man tells him that the whole thing was Henry Allen's idea. With that information, the Flash found the guard that helped them escape, and he discovered that it was in fact Henry Allen's plan, and he got the guard to agree by promising to help cure his ill wife. The Flash runs, trying to sort this whole thing out in his head. He runs when he needs to think, when Professor Zoom suddenly runs alongside him again. "You again?" the Flash shouts. "Who are you?" With glowing red eyes and a sinister grin. "Such an angry man, Flash. Where does it come from, I wonder?" And he runs in front of the Flash, keeping one step ahead of him, leading him. And then he vanishes, and the Flash finds himself back on his home street, his old house. What is all of this? His house, his father breaking out of jail, a yellow speedster? What is going on? Still confused, the Flash waits for a call to come in, for a break-in, and he runs there as fast as he can and he changes into Barry Allen, where he confronts his father. His father stands there in shock and Barry runs at him, giving him the largest hug he's ever given his father. And then he tells him, "You gotta go back to prison, Dad. Of course I want to see you, but you gotta get out the right way. I have a lead on the real killer. It's a man that can move as fast as the Flash." His father turns to him. "If you see that man, run away, Barry. I'm an ex-con with a score to settle. I'm no good to you anymore, Barry." So hearing his father's words, he decides he's going to clear his father's name by himself, and he continues running through the city until another call comes down, one where the crooks will only talk to the Flash. He runs to the heist and he tries to free the hostages, but he discovers that they are only mannequins, and then a gun is pressed to the back of his head. He runs around the room managing to flip the crook over and take his gun, and then he realizes that the crook that he just flipped was his father. His father wanted to talk to the Flash, to ask him to help Barry Allen, not realizing that his son is the Flash. He explains that his wife was murdered and he took the blame, but the real murderer is back and his name is Eobard Thawne. He's afraid that Thawne will hurt Barry, but Thawne is a speedster like the Flash. He needs the Flash's help. The Flash is stunned. You need my help? Why not ask Barry? Because he can't handle this. You can. The police then arrive and the Flash stands there continuing to be in shock. Remember! Henry shouts to the Flash as he's carried off. And in the police cruiser, Daryl Fry, the police chief, and the man that raised Barry, calls Henry crazy because any chance of having his name cleared is out the window now. But Henry explains that Thawne is back and he passed word to Henry in Iron Heights that no one in the Allen family is safe, and he broke out to protect his son. While they're talking though, a woman steps in front of the police cruiser and lets it hit her. She's the unstoppable woman and it wraps around her. Then a tornado begins to wrap around the remnants of the vehicle while the woman escorts Henry Allen to see an old friend of his. The Flash then runs over. If you think for a second I'm gonna let you take him, you are, but before he can finish his sentence, he finds himself running into a shadow and he ends up on the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. Using his intelligence, he spins his arms at a rapid rate, propelling himself to the surface where he catches his breath on an island, and then he blitzes back to Central City angry. He has no idea where they took his father, but it doesn't take long for the crooks to pop up again, letting Central City know the Flash has failed them. The Flash rockets onto the scene, demanding to know where Henry Allen is. And then he just ignores the fact that he asked a question and jumps in, telling her, you know, I'm feeling a bit impatient today. But this is the unstoppable woman, and as he hits her, his hand shatters! The tornado then pops up, throwing police cars at the Flash, and he maneuvers between them and he lands in front of the woman again, just as she clotheslines him, dropping him to the street. We know what kind of monster you really are, Flash. And then she points to a machine that they've built in the middle of Central City and tells him, and now everyone else will know too. We know more about your power than you can even fathom because the lightning chose us as well. Then, using the combined powers of Zoom's team, they create a dome over the police precinct where the Flash is standing. He tries to vibrate through the wall, but that's when the walls give him a heavy amount of feedback and the device in the middle begins to ignite. It's a bomb that is being triggered by the Flash's own energy, set up perfectly to injure those that the Flash holds dear. Because inside, Daryl Fry, the man who raised Barry, and Wally West, Iris West's nephew, are there. The Flash falls to his knees defeated because every time he tries to run, the device does more damage and eventually it'll fully explode. He's trapped by his own powers. Daryl comes running out and demands to know what the Flash did. But at that exact moment, another lightning strike comes off of the bomb and it threatens to hit Daryl. So the Flash runs again, causing yet another strike to go off, hitting himself. Everything starts to get out of control with the Chief blaming the Flash and other individuals saying that it wasn't him. The whole situation is a mess. And Professor Zoom is smirking from the outskirts. Luckily, Wally West is also trapped inside with them, and he has an idea. He's a rather smart kid. He heats up an engine block beyond normal temperatures, and then he begins to drive it into the wall. Just as it's about to hit the wall and potentially kill him, the Flash uses his speed again to save Wally, asking him, "Are you crazy?" But Wally smiles, because his plan did work, and there's now a hole in the wall. The Flash wastes no time saving everyone and carrying them out of the building through the hole. But just as he gets the last of the people out of the building, the bomb takes all of his energy and the entire dome implodes, destroying the police station on the inside. Daryl Fry, the captain, flips out on the Flash. He's dangerous. He took out a portion of the city instead of just letting the police handle the situation. But the Flash has had enough as he tells the captain to calm the hell down. They lost a building and that was all. Then he leaves. Meanwhile, Professor Zoom turns to his hostage, Henry Allen, and he asks him if he's finished the device. Henry shows him the glove that can steal the powers of other individuals, and he tries to use it on Professor Zoom! Of course, Zoom freezes time again, and he takes the glove before throwing Henry to the wall. Henry, you're just a pawn. This whole thing was to put Central City against the Flash. Make Iris West write a fine article in which she explains that the Flash destroyed the police precinct. I want the Flash's name to go down in history as a dangerous individual, and with this glove, I will take the Flash's power. Luckily and unluckily, one of the members of Zoom's gang, Magelli, enters the room at that exact time and hears everything. That his actual plan is to ruin the Flash and take his power, not to stop a demon. So Professor Zoom grabs her with the glove, taking her power. He then wastes no time taking the fight directly to the Flash. His plan is working as he just needs the Flash's power now. Realizing that he's overwhelmed, the Flash runs off, telling Zoom that if he wants a fight, he'll have to catch him first. So Zoom tells his team to catch the Flash. It's time to end this. And the rest of the team starts to wonder where Magelli is. The Shadow Man catches up with the Flash first, but now the Flash knows what the Shadow Man can do, so he dodges every one of the Shadow Man's arms, and then he breaks the ground, dropping the unstoppable woman into the bay. He then reaches out to stop the moving tornado of a man, but Zoom freezes time again, and he grabs the Flash, lifting him off the ground, telling his team to back off. The Flash is his. The Flash goes in for a punch, but Zoom catches his fist. No one has ever really challenged you, have they, Flash? That whelp, Daniel West, he was an insult to our kind. And Grodd, no matter how smart he is, he's just an ape. While you can cover distances, time is my domain, Flash. He then hits the Flash over and over until Henry calls out, Eobard! Henry Allen has helped Magelli to the bridge where the fight is happening, and she informs the team that Zoom is a liar and a cheat. He is the one that sent their persecutors on them, and he lied to them about the Flash. Zoom throws the Flash aside and he gets ready as the Shadow Man, Unstoppable Woman, and the Tornado Man all jump in to fight against him. And using the Shadow Man to put the Unstoppable Woman in the path of his glove, they break his power-stealing glove. So Zoom smirks and he grabs Henry Allen and he runs for it. Zoom runs Henry to their old house and he tells the Flash that it's time to bring you home. Henry puts it together. Barry, you're the Flash? I wanted to tell you, Dad, but I was trying to keep you safe. Ha! You Allens love your secrets. So Henry spills his secret. You were right, son. I didn't kill your mother. It was Eobard Thawne, this Professor Zoom. He is the one behind everything, and he told me that if I didn't keep quiet and help him, he would kill you. Flash is in shock. Thawne, Zoom, whatever your name is, why did you do it? So Thawne explains that he is from the year 2463, where the Flash is revered as a legend. A legend! Zoom gained his powers that he tried to rule the Gem Cities. They were his. But the people wouldn't let him. They fought against him in the name of the Flash, a man who was nothing more than a legend in this time period. But if you defeat a legend, you can rule the future. And Zoom knew that if he couldn't beat the Flash at his full power, he would go back in time and give Flash the same life that he had, and put them on the same footing. Zoom's father killed his mother, so Zoom killed Barry's mother and had his father take the blame! Zoom then goes in to kill Henry Allen, but the Flash gets in his way just in time. They continue their fight, but over and over, Zoom is too much. He freezes time and he steps around the Flash. There isn't any way for the Flash to catch him. The Flash then hits the ground to feed and it asks, how is Zoom so powerful? How can he move so much faster than the Flash? Zoom holds a clock to the Flash's face. It's about damn time! I ended the Allen bloodline. That's it! Time! The Flash thinks. The Flash channels everything he has. He taps into power previously unseen in the Flash, and he gets up and he stops Zoom. You've assumed that I just move fast, Zoom, but I'm also connected to time, just in a different way. While you can slow time, I can move it forward. I've always worried that if I ran my fastest, I would tear a hole in space and time, but now I see what I have to do. I have to stop holding back. Zoom can't do anything about the Flash. He's literally too fast as he gets his hits in left and right while Zoom is calling out, No! I was meant to be the true hero! Me! I've prepared for this my entire life, 12 lifetimes! All I ever heard was how perfect you are and how I wasn't! With that, he manages to get a hit in, throwing the Flash down to the street. I needed to break you to prove yourself less than me! This is me breaking you, Barry! Finally ending the Flash! The Flash stands up in an explosion of lightning. No! Why, Zoom? Why did you do this to me? It's not fair! You had a perfect life, the perfect parents! I needed you to be at the same level as me! The Flash hits Zoom hard, finally hitting him so hard that he knocks his mask off and he drops him to the ground. Then, the Flash runs. He gets a method of keeping Zoom sedated, and he gets the police force to the site to arrest the man. Just as the police arrive, Flash changes back into Barry and he informs them that this man is Eobard Thawne, the man who actually killed Nora Allen. And he'll get all the evidence to prove it. He then kneels down over Eobard Thawne. You are under arrest, Eobard. Thawne is carried off and he's placed into restraints that prevent his powers from working. His final words are, I won! Didn't I? I won! The city hates him! I won! And that is the end of Zoom. Over in Central City, Daryl walks Barry through the old police precinct to welcome him to his new job. It's a special project that came down from the mayor himself, and they needed the best forensic specialist on it. He might not like it. Heck, Daryl isn't even thrilled about it. But starting today, Barry Allen is a part of the Rogues. Barry will be working with the Rogues in the city's effort to stop that menace, the Flash, before he has another chance to help by destroying more of the city. Carol tells him that they have no choice. With the Flash's recent activities, he's done more harm than good. So who better to assist them than the Rogues, and they will be using and monitoring drones placed all over the city. All of these drones are in place so that if the Flash uses his speed energy, they will be able to pinpoint exactly where he is. Daryl says that he knows Barry won't be happy about this, but this is something that they need to do. Barry says that he understands, but he has to go take care of a few things before work. Barry heads over to the diner to meet with his father, and he tells him what's going on. The CCPD are hunting down the Flash because they're worried that his powers might not be safe. This is all Eobard Thawne's fault. But Henry asks him, are they right? Are you really unsafe? And Barry tells him that he doesn't think so. Harry then tells Barry that while he was in jail, he met a lot of people who were placed there because of the Flash, and he thought to himself that if the Flash was around when Barry's mother Nora was killed, he would have liked to have seen him then, and maybe she would still be alive. Even before knowing that Barry was the Flash, the police might not like it, but the city needs the Flash. Over in the industrial district though, a shadowy janitor decides to conduct an experiment and cause some chlorine trifluoride to leak. Barry gets a notice of the gas leak, so he suits up and he runs over at flash speed to the plant to find some people still trapped inside. When he runs into the building, he notices the smell, and he knows that this chemical is extremely flammable. Even the smallest spark could set it off, like the ones that are caused when he runs. Seeing the shock about to ignite, Barry grabs the two workers and quickly blitzes out of the building just before the entire building explodes. But as he tells the worker that he's sorry about the plant, he hears a voice stating, "See? You are a danger." Barry turns to see Daryl and the rest of the Rogues. Daryl says that their first priority right now is to contain that fire, and after that, they're gonna handle the Flash. So Captain Cold freezes Barry in place, and the Rogues get to work stopping the fire. And once they do, it's time to go back to dealing with the Flash. Daryl tells the Flash that since he's shown up, this city has faced disaster, and the Flash says he understands. But he also knows that if he wasn't around, things would be much worse. And the other thing is, he can't stop fighting. Barry begins to vibrate to break free from the ice, holding him back. And then he begins to beat and knock out each of the Rogues. As usual, it's the Rogues. He wins all the time. As Barry finishes up though, Daryl points a gun at him, telling him to just give it up before anyone else gets hurt. But it doesn't stop the Flash. The Flash turns and he begins to try and run away to escape. And after he gets away, Daryl begins to look at the ice that was holding Barry in place. And that's when he found some key evidence that can help them figure out who exactly the Flash is. A sample of his blood was left behind. Elsewhere in the city, the janitor from the plant watches over a monitor, the same ones used by the CCPD when they watch for Barry's speed energies and decide where they're gonna move. And that's when he says his experiment went well. But tomorrow though, they'll begin a new experiment. Then the janitor walks off and a voice tells him, "Just kill me." And he turns to see a giant test tube asking, "Why would I do that, Heatwave? We're just getting warmed up." Later, back at the CCPD Special Task Force headquarters, Barry begins to argue with Captain Cold as to why they're even here. He's actually built cases twice to put these guys away. Captain Cold says that they're in the clear now. Even the mayor wrote off all of their crimes. And as the argument continues to escalate, Daryl comes in to stop their fight and telling them both that they need to focus. Barry should just take a look at the sample that they've collected. Barry mentions that he hasn't found anything out of the sample yet. That blood sample may be invalid, but he'll just take a little more time. He just needs to talk to his own experts first. Barry begins to walk off, knowing that he can't reveal who the blood sample belongs to because it's him. And Daryl tells Barry one more thing. "Tell your father I said hello." Over at Marshall Fletcher Middle School, Wally sits in a bathroom stall trying to figure out what exactly is going on. His hands, they won't stop shaking. The bell rings and finally it's time for class, so Wally walks over there and that's when he learns he can control the speed. He begins to move out of the stall, but then he moves at top speed, almost like a flash speed, and he makes it into the class as the teacher begins to go for roll call. As they call Wally's name, he runs in and he says he's here? Outside the building though, one of the drones watching over the city begins to pick up on the speed anomaly. Over at the Old Town Wharf, Barry begins to speak with his father about what he should do now that the CCPD has his blood. Seeing as Henry, his father, has studied Speedster blood, Barry needs a way to counteract it. And Henry asks him, "So you need help defeating yourself?" Barry tells him no, he needs a way to make the blood look normal, basically destroying it. Back at the school, Wally sits down in the class and the students begin to see the windows starting to freeze over. Then a giant explosion goes off in the classroom and out steps the Rogues. At the lake, the call goes out that there has been a speed abnormality and it's over at Wally's school. Barry says that if the Rogues are there, someone might get hurt. And Henry tells him that he shouldn't go down there because they're gonna want to pick a fight. But by the time I finish this sentence, you're already gonna be gone. And by the time he finishes the sentence, Flash is already gone. Barry runs over to the school to find the rogues searching for the Flash, and right when Barry slows down, Barry asks them if they want to fight, then they're gonna need to do it away from the children. Weather Wizard tells him sure, and he blasts Barry through the wall into the hallway, and the rest of the rogues step through to have their turn. Captain Cold creates a pillar of ice which Barry has to break through, and then Weather Wizard creates a tornado picking up all of the broken shards of the ice. Barry says that they're gonna need to step things up because he can easily outrun all of this, and Weather Wizard once again tells them, sure. These might seem familiar, but we've added a few things, Flash. Mirror Master then creates mirrors all around him, and Golden Glider states that she knows that she can't stop him. She just wanted to distract him for a moment. And then all of the shards of ice begin shooting into the mirrors, hitting Barry. Barry picks himself up from the bloody mess that the rogues have turned him into, and he says, that was good. But you're gonna have to do a little more than that, and if you'll excuse me. Trickster then steps up and tells him to wait. The Flash didn't get a chance to see what he can do. He then pulls up his sleeve and he says that he's gonna teach these students about explosions with his bomb arm. Just watch. Trickster then fires his arm, pointing it right at the students. Barry begins to run to catch up to the arm, but when he does, he tells everyone to stay back as he grabs the bomb and he holds it close to himself. But why didn't it go off? Barry starts to inspect the arm and then it rockets out of his hands and grabs a hold of Barry's neck and arms. Daryl comes running in asking what happened, and Captain Cold tells him they did what they were supposed to do. The Flash is under arrest. A short while later, Daryl begins to walk the Flash out to the transport to bring him to jail. But before they can get him to the van, Mirror Master reaches for his mask. He wants to know finally who the Flash is, but Daryl stops him. And he tells him, not like this, not in front of everyone. We'll handle this when we get to Iron Heights. Out from the crowd, Iris West asks if she can have a word with Daryl. Why are they arresting the Flash? And he tells her that that's because the Flash is a danger to the city. As Daryl gets in the van to leave, Wally runs up stating that they need to do something. They just arrested the Flash. The Flash came to Wally's classroom to protect them. Iris says that she knows the Flash came to protect Wally's classroom, but why would the police think that the Flash was there to begin with? Over at the wharf, word of the Flash's arrest travels quickly, and Henry makes a phone call and tells the person that he needs to collect a favor. Elsewhere, Trickster goes to visit the shadowy figure and tells him that the trick arm he gave him worked perfectly, and the figure tells him he knows. He's been watching the whole time. He was the one who sold the CCPD all of those drones, and with the Flash incarcerated, they can now step into a brighter future. Trickster looks up as our mysterious man pushes a button, and that's when he sees his friend, Heatwave, trapped by this mysterious man. Trickster states that he thought Heatwave died, but the man tells him no. Heatwave survived, and right now he's an insurance policy. And as for your new trick arm, the old one didn't have a bomb in it, but this one does. And don't worry about Heatwave. He'll be free as soon as we build our new empire. Over in Iron Heights, a guard comes by to let Girder out of his cell and tells him that he has a message from an old friend that they need to help out. But they're going to require the help of another inmate. Out in front of the building, Daryl begins to run the Flash through the process of booking. But before they can get much further into it, Girder comes running through the wall, breaking it down. The guards tell Girder not to move. They have new weapons just for someone with his metal skin. And Girder tells them, that's nice. I also have a secret. And then he looks back and says, you're up, Overload. Overload steps through and begins to sap all of the electricity from the arm holding the Flash. And soon, the entire building. With all of the power being drained, the guards start to lose power in all of the cells. But with so much electricity pumping into him, Overload begins to cause a massive explosion. Daryl braces for the hit, but a second later, he sees himself and the other guards outside of the building. The Flash says that the walls won't hold much longer, and that Daryl and the rest of them need to leave. He's gonna go back and get everyone else. The Flash runs back in, picks up all of the guards, and places them on boats so that they can escape. But when they ask if he needs a ride back, the Flash tells him nah, he's good. And he starts to run back to the city across the water. As Barry gets back to the pier though, a drone goes off alerting everyone to his location being there. And then Barry is shot with another cold blast, freezing him in place. Barry tells the rogues that they need to work together. Iron Heights is destroyed. And Mirror Master says, yeah, we heard, but we really just don't care. We still need to put you in jail. He then pulls the Flash through a mirror on the ground, and he pushes him out the side of a tall building, letting him fall. The Flash tries to gain his balance, but then the Weather Wizard appears with another tornado grabbing Barry and throwing him into the wall. Once he lands, the rogues all begin to gather around, but then the drones start to circle around all of them, and the drones begin to transform. Soon everyone hears a voice telling them, that's better. And then the drones begin to open fire on the rogues. Golden Glider turns to help out her fellow rogues, but then behind her, Trickster says that the man promised to teach him a new trick, and then he shoots a blast, disorienting Golden Glider. Barry starts to stand up and ask, who? Who is doing all of this? And then the voice tells him, who indeed? Why none other than the Riddler? The rogues start to get back up, and Riddler tells them that they should walk away now. And he'll see to it that they get their bounty for the Flash. He's pretty sure that they can use it for life support. Mirror Master then asks what did Trickster do, and he tells them that he just scattered Golden Glider's astral form. Her body is fine though. As the rogues leave, Barry starts to run and disarm all of the drones close by, stating that he can stop all of these before they can even get a shot off. And the Riddler tells him, yes, you're right, you can do that, Flash. So how would I beat a man that can catch a bullet? By having all of the drones pointed at everyone else in the city. Yeah, Flash, you could stop some of them, but not all of them. So if you want to try and disarm any more of these drones, they're all going to shoot. And if you try to stop me, the drones are going to shoot. Barry asks the Riddler, what am I supposed to do? The Riddler tells him, just sit there and take it. Riddler then pulls out a pair of brass knuckles and he begins punching and beating the Flash down, and civilians begin to gather around. Riddler tells everyone that if they do anything to help, all of the drones will go off, and the Flash tells everyone to back off. Then a voice can be heard telling Riddler that the Flash isn't the only hero in town. The Pied Piper is one too. Pied Piper drives up and tells the Flash to get on, and the two of them ride off. The drones begin to chase after them, but they can't keep up as the Pied Piper pulls into a sewer. Flash tells him that was reckless, he could have hurt people. And the Pied Piper tells him, you know, that's a funny way of thanking me for saving you and all, but it doesn't matter anymore because it's time for me to help you save the city, Flash. Back topside with the Riddler, Daryl and the other officers show up to arrest the Riddler, but he tells them, that's not gonna happen. I control all of the drones. You're gonna kill everyone if you try to do anything to me. So, the CCPD, you guys work for me now. Later, Henry goes to see Iris West at work to see if she's heard anything from Barry, but before he can get any real answers, an announcement begins to play through the drones. Riddler tells everyone, I run Central City now, and the first thing I'm gonna do is have the Flash turn himself in. You've got 15 minutes to respond and come willingly, and if you don't, these drones are gonna open fire on everyone, Flash. So, is the Flash gonna be your hero, or is he gonna leave you all behind? Everyone in the city sits and waits, and the Riddler watches his watch, stating that he may have misjudged the Flash in saving everyone. Then he hears a voice telling him, no he didn't. Here he is. His name is Barry Allen, and he surrenders. With the Flash now having revealed his secret identity to the Riddler puts Barry into a guillotine and tells Daryl that he knows this must be an emotional time for him, seeing his surrogate son like this. But you better not cross me, because I still have Heatwave, and he's gonna level the entire city if anyone steps out of line. Barry tells Daryl, you're here to protect the city, just stand down, Daryl. Riddler declares, look what it took down to take the most powerful superhero. Not speed or strength, just my mind. And now it's time to smile for everyone watching your execution, Flash. Elsewhere in the city, Wally looks at one of the drones outside of his window and he figures it's time for him to do something. And he jumps out, disarming the drone. Back at Riddler's base, an alarm goes off that there has been another speed anomaly, and the Riddler begins to call Barry an imposter. The Flash is still out there. I'm picking up the speed anomalies. Luckily, no one knows Wally West has speed powers, so they all assume it's the Flash. Daryl helps Barry up, stating that he's not thrilled that the Flash used him as a decoy, but he needs to get out of here and tell the Flash to keep on fighting. Barry tells him that he will, and he knows just the people to help him. Over in Keystone City, the rogues hear a knock at the door, and the Trickster walks in. Captain Cole turns and freezes Trickster along the wall, but he breaks free, telling everyone that he has a bomb in his arm. He had to do what the Riddler said. That and Heatwave is. But before he can finish, Barry appears and tells them alive. And if you want to help Heatwave, then we're all gonna need to work together for a bit, rogues. And to show them that he means to work with them, Barry pulls off Trickster's arm and begins to reset it. Once he's done, he hands it back to Trickster, telling him to go ahead and try that. There was a disruptor in there for Golden Glider. Trickster turns and shoots his beam at Golden Glider, and she begins to wake up. But instead of having a projection of her, she looks down and sees that her arm can begin to change. With Golden Glider officially altered by the same technology the Riddler used to get rid of her, everyone heads back to the city. And back over in the city, the Riddler begins to destroy the place. Barry calls him out, stating that he doesn't need to threaten anymore. You want the Flash? You got him. Riddler then orders the drones to attack, but before they can, Captain Cold and the rest of the rogues show up to stop the drones before they can fire. Then Pied Piper appears, sending in his rat army. Back at the Riddler's base, though, Trickster, Mirror Master, and Golden Glider all show up to finally free Heatwave. While Barry and the others fight off the drones, the Riddler gets a notice of what Trickster is doing, and he sets off the timer in the Trickster's arm. Trickster tells everyone to move. He's got an idea, and he places the explosive arm along the test tube that is containing Heatwave. Once the timer hits 0, a giant explosion goes off. Mirror Master and Golden Glider get away, but when they look through the fire, they see someone walking, and it's Heatwave, carrying Trickster. Heatwave looks right at him and he tells them all, I could really go for a pint, but Trickster should be okay as well. Back in the fight, Riddler begins to call in more drones, and soon it begins to become too much for the rogues and the Flash. But as the next wave of drones appear, they're all shot down by Heatwave. With all of the rogues behind him, the Flash tells the Riddler that now that he has all of his drones here not targeting anyone, I don't have to hold back. Barry runs in, destroying all of the remaining drones, and then he tells the Riddler But this is his home, and you're no longer welcome here, Riddler. Riddler begins to walk away, and the rogues get ready to kill him. But Barry tells them to stop. There's no killing, just send the Riddler to jail. Behind them, though, Daryl tells Barry that he'll take it from here, and for what he tried to do to the Flash, he's really sorry. Daryl then goes on to state that he hopes they can work together again. Barry tells him, soon enough, but first, I want to go for a run.
And there you have it, the New 52 Flash full story. What did you think of today's video and Flash in the New 52? Let me know in the comments below. And be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. I'm Dan with Comicstorian, and we will see you next time. Rest in peace, Benny.